Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Top Bins with Twins. We are so excited to not even preemptively, but just go ahead and say that FPL is back. We made it through the World Cup. The long trek through the desert is coming to an end, and we now have price points. Luke, I know that there's been a little bit of time off from FPL last season. We're not even going to talk about where last season was, but tell me, how are you feeling at this moment about prices coming out and the FPL game opening up just this past week?
I'm very excited. And hello there to all of our listeners out there. It's good to be back with you all for another season. I think this is going to be our fifth season during the podcast, I believe. Um,
That's it, really.
think so, four or five, which is kind of crazy. Been doing it for a while now. But
That's great.
hopefully my FPL rank this season reflects that I've been doing this for a while. That continues to get better. So, yes, well, welcome everyone. Paul and I are Top Benzo Twins. If this is your first time here, you are very welcomed. We'd love to have you. While you're here, hit that subscribe and like button, please. That definitely helps us out a lot. We very much so appreciate it. But we're here to talk FPL with you all because FPL is now officially back. With the prices coming out, we can start tinkering away, start building out our squads, and really just having a lot of fun spinning our wheels because our teams are going to change a million different times up until August
Mhm.
21st when Coventry plays Arsenal on that Friday afternoon. So we are really looking forward to that getting here soon. I think there's going to be a lot that changes between now and then. But if prices are out, we're back. So Paul and I are really excited to talk to you guys about this today. Um, Paul,
Mhm.
how was your summer? I know you asked me, but I'm going to ask you first because I've been talking for a little bit. I want to hear how your summer went, and then I'll follow up after that.
Yeah, it was great. I know that if you're probably seeing this early FPL content from us, you're probably aware of the World Cup stuff we put out. So feel free, if you want to go back, review some of the stuff that we went over in the World Cup. That was honestly a really fun segment for us to go through and kind of just focus on more national team football, that kind of stuff. So if that's something maybe you're more interested in, still keep an eye on the channel because we'll be talking about maybe more generic Premier League stuff, maybe other leagues at some point down the line, that kind of stuff as well. So we always like to do check-ins with even people that aren't just FPL centric. This is a podcast for anybody that just even wants to talk anything soccer. So we're always here for any of that. And also, too, kind of funny, but I'm not going to say where, but we almost had a new addition to the podcast this week when Luke ran into a pretty famous footballer at a coffee shop
I
where we
did.
live.
I did.
Luke, do you want to give? You don't have to
Sure.
name
Yeah.
drop anything if you don't want to, but
Yeah, I won't. But it was Antoine Griezmann that that I ran into. It was so random. So, as you listeners might know, I do happen to live in Paul and I both live in Florida. We're just right outside of Tampa in that area, and I was at a local coffee shop grabbing some stuff before I came back for work for the day. And I was sitting, at a chair at one of the windows that looks at tables outside this place. And I look up and I see a guy and I'm like, that guy looks familiar. I don't know why, but I can't place it. And then, you know, eventually figured out it was Antoine Griezmann. So and he was there with his family, his daughter, and I think his wife, and then maybe, like a family friend or so. And I went up and said hi, talked to them for about 30 seconds. Want to be very mindful of their time, right? I really don't want to interrupt, because I feel like they're probably here for a vacation, that kind of thing, come over to the beach. So didn't want to intrude too much, but I also couldn't not say hi. But I wasn't overly annoying. I didn't ask for a selfie or any autographs or anything, but got to talk to him for a little bit, and that was
he's
a really cool
lying.
experience.
He's lying.
Yeah, no, not gonna joke about that one. But yeah, so it was
Well,
really
Luke,
cool.
I think now we can probably say Antoine Griezmann, longtime friend of the podcast, right?
Yes, for sure. Fellow Derek Rose lover. Oh, that's
Oh,
Oh, ouch.
ugh.
Ouch. Okay, well, moving on from that. No, definitely, he was very nice. And it was a really cool experience. After I talked to him, I was shaking. So it's just kind of one of those things, right? Like you don't expect it, and then it happens. And you're like, okay, I'm glad I did it. So, but if you're Antoine, if you're
Yeah, I mean,
listening,
look, I mean,
I know you might be. We appreciate it. You were awesome. So
mhm. Yeah, I mean, like, how many times do you expect to just, go about your average day and see somebody that was playing in a Champions League semifinal last season? Like, mind blowing stuff. But yeah, just wanted to
yeah,
highlight that really quick because that was just one of those moments where, I mean, I feel like your average American probably would not recognize Antoine Griezmann. No shade to our old time friend here, but if you follow football, you absolutely know.
you do.
But
I
yeah, with
I
that
was
too,
sitting
Luke,
there. I was sitting there in the coffee shop,
go ahead.
and I was looking around, and I was like, these people don't know. They don't know that they're surrounded by one of the best left-footed artists in the game. So it was pretty cool to be able to do
Mhm.
that. But go ahead, Paul. Where are we heading now?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we can go ahead and jump into, some FPL centric stuff. But like I was saying there too, if you're ever listening to the podcast, obviously, like Luke said, you should really like, subscribe, all those things. Um, but if there's another league that you're interested in, whether it's MLS, if it's La Liga, if it's Serie A, doesn't really matter. Let us know if you want us to kind of dive in to look at that league. If you want somebody to just talk to you about it, I mean, I can always find time to watch a random Serie A game. So just let us know if there's any other discourse you want to talk about, any other leagues rather than just Premier League too, because that's usually what we focus on.
Yeah.
But with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into some of the early changes in FPL, some Premier League centric changes, I'd say, with the managers, and really just look at, what both of our initial thoughts are with FPL and just kind of dive into those details. So without further ado, let's open this up. I feel like I'm always struggling with the screen share.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and dive into it, right? So the changes here that we're seeing so far, I think holistically are some very good changes. And it's also not as wild, and it's not as big of an update as it was, say, last year, right? Because last year we ended up with AFCON transfers. They announced 2 rounds of chips. They introduced DEFCON, which probably the biggest one out of all those things I just mentioned. And those kind of changed the landscape of FPL, right? Whether you want to admit it or not, that made a big difference for how the game is going to be played going forward. And because I think DEF CON is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It might get refined a little bit, and that's what we're about to talk about, right? But so the primary changes we've seen that are going to be going into the 2026-2027 FPL season, for one, everything's going to be live, right? If you open up the FPL app, what you'll see there is going to be your actual rank at that exact point in time. So you don't have to wait for the game to buffer and load, and say like an hour and a half after, right? Another great thing too is whenever we're looking at our teams, let's say, I'm looking at Haaland in my team on a Saturday afternoon. Haaland just scored a goal in the app. I'm going to be able to see his 2 bonus points if he's on 2 bonus points, right? So that's going to be a
Gotcha.
really good update, I think. It does, and they also have a new feature in there where they're going to be tracking price updates and price changes. That's going to be in the app as well. It's really kind of feels like it's filtering out some of the sites, right, that people have been using, like live FPL, some stuff that's on Fantasy Football Scout as well. A lot of that data where you'd have to go to an external party to get it is now going to be in the app. So I think,
Which
you know,
honestly, it feels like it should have been for a long time, right, Luke?
it should have been, right? And I think these are data points that are relatively easy for the Premier League to get, right? It's just a matter of putting it out there where we could easily see it. So I think these are good. I do feel for the people who run the services they do, all the time that they've put into building it. and the money that they're putting into it as well, to fetch the APIs and get the data. But I do think this is still pretty introductory, so those services are still going to have an application,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, right? Especially the people deep into the details, kind of like we are. So, Paul, if you want to, though, do you want to talk about the BPS rebalance?
Yeah. So looking at BPS, they made a couple changes kind of deeper within kind of how those bonus points are calculated. So we're going to see that there's going to be, I think, keepers should take a little bit of more of those bonus points this year, fullbacks and attacking players as well. And with that, too, they did kind of make an adjustment where we're going to see that, you know, players losing possession. So you see dribblers like we have listed, like, Doku, Semenyo, Rogers, probably are going to see a little bit of a raise in the bonus points as well because they would lose points for a lost tackle. Now they're not going to. So that's going to be a big one. And then also, too, kind of the bonus points with the 3 clearances, tackles, or interceptions is now going to take 3 of those each of those different categories to get one of those bonus points. So instead, it went from 2 to 3. So that'll probably, I'd say, as we're listing here, impact center backs the most. But yeah, and also I think another probably one of the more relevant things is that there's going to be a later lock onto when scores will go final, which will be later in the day. It should be the day after, I think, at 9. I'm not going to say exactly what time that is.
Yeah, that's going to be in the morning, right? I think at 9 a.m. after the final game, that's when everything will lock, right? And that gives, because we used to have these instances where it's, say, like Tarkowski. He's a defender that's always on the verge of DEFCON. What would happen is, let's say they play on Sunday, that's the last game of the week.
Yeah.
It would then lock when that last match would end, right? It would have like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then it's done. So even if Opta came in with an update, which if you don't know what Opta is a data sourcing platform, and they're the ones who, really at the end determine like if a challenge is a challenge or not, or if it's an interception. They're the ones doing the back end of the decision making for statistical tracking. They would then roll out updates every once in a while where they, review the film and then make changes to some data points. So he could have ended up on 10, 10 DEFCON, but because of the timing, he might not get credited for it.
Yeah.
Right. So this extra buffer allows that to where this should prevent that from happening, because at times that did seem very unfair. Right. Ultimately, it really just mattered like what time you played at, and if you're at in the last game of the week, maybe you just get unfortunately lucky.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it should be played, right? It should be every player should be given a fair chance and have that Opta update kick in, right? And everything. So I think this is a really good, thing for them to incorporate. And then on top of that, like a couple little improvements within the UI for the Premier League app, right? Where there's now a 3-game FDR in there that you can filter on, look at your players, a little more data as well. So I think that's always helpful, and something good. If you want to go to sites like FPLT, you know, FPL data and stuff like that, those are all really good places to go, and they're much more comprehensive and more data heavy. Solio as well is a great place. Paul and I have talked about that on the podcast. They're really relatively new platform that started out last season, but they do a really good job with analytics, and they allow you to customize things that a lot of other FPL sites just simply can't do. So we really appreciate that software as well. So check out all of those, see what fits best for you. But these are going to be some impactful changes, but nothing that is comprehensively going to change the way we play the game, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Luke. I think these are probably more like, I would say, band-aids or like just slight tweaks that it's not, you were exactly right at the beginning here, that this isn't, a holistic change to the FPL experience, really. there's just going to be slight things that we wanted to bring up here.
Yeah.
But so going forward here too. So one of the big carry on effects, season to season when you're looking at the Premier League. I mean, you could honestly say any sport if you look baseball, basketball, soccer. I mean, not really soccer, football, American football. That is that changing a manager is going to change the whole system the team's playing. It's going to change who's selected. It's going to change who maybe is the focal attacking point of a team. So we've seen 8 new managers, or at least changes, coming in this season. Most notable, we've seen Pep Guardiola leave Manchester City. Long live the king. He's gone. He's gone, Luke.
I'm surprised you said "Long live the king." I didn't think you would refer to him as that. I thought it was like
I
tyrant,
so Luke, I can admit,
authoritarian figure.
I can admit that I think Pep Guardiola will go down as the best Premier League manager of all time. Like I am a certified hater of everything Manchester City, and I think there should be asterisks around, some of the things they win, and we'll see how that plays out down the line. But in saying that, I mean, he has to be considered one of the best of all time, realistically. And that's just a massive gap that you're going to see, um, or I guess a chasm really at City, from Maresca trying to step in, manage that team. There's a wealth of talent at Manchester City. But with that, I mean, does he have the ability to navigate this team through a Premier League season while navigating Champions League and extremely high expectations? I don't know. And what's going to be the focal point of the team? Obviously Haaland, but who does he start? A lot of
Yeah,
questions to be asked.
I think it'll be very interesting with him, right? Because I think we'll see under Maresca, ideally in a attacking shape of 4-2-3-1. So, pretty straightforward with Rodri now being out for the beginning of the season, with him confirming to have had back surgery. That's going to make a difference.
If he's still there, though.
Yeah, right. He could end up somewhere else. There are rumors about Real Madrid, potentially. So we'll see where that goes. But I do think Maresca is going to be a good fit. And it did feel like, as successful as Pep has been, things might have been getting a little stale, right? I think the Premier League has changed a lot since he came in. And it's not that he wasn't handling those changes. I think it just wasn't conducive to a style of play. But here's the thing. Maresca plays very similar to Pep, right? We know that he was an assistant manager under him. He definitely, had similar thoughts coming in, but learned a lot from that. And I think that's what Manchester City's looking for, is they're looking for that continuity.
Yeah.
There was, and we'll talk about this shortly whenever we show our teams for our kind of like initial drafts that we put together. There have been some reports coming out, and we know Phil Foden signed a new contract as well. But a rumor is that Man City is building this future generation around Gvardiol, Haaland, and then Foden as well. They see them as the main 3 pillars of what they're building in the future. Um, so that's interesting, right? It's something that we want to keep an eye on. If Phil Foden is 7 million in the game, and we're getting the Phil Foden from 2 to 3 years ago, where he's Premier League Player of the Season, FPL made a big mistake at 7 million.
Yeah.
Right. So, and think about Cole Palmer under Maresca. Palmer had some good stretches. He played really well, and was Maresca. He set it up to where Cole Palmer was his most important player. So we expect, Phil Foden will probably be occupying that same, 10 position. So I would expect maybe to see Foden have a good season this year. The question, does he start? I don't know. So we need to very closely watch Man City's fixtures, and then also, keep an eye on how that Community Shield goes whenever they play. So, on top of that, though, we've seen a lot of other changes in the Premier League. 8 managers have rotated out, either going to new Premier League clubs or moving outside of the Premier League, or retiring like Pep has. So, Paul, you want to run through some of the changes that we see here?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the big ones of note, I would say, Luke. I mean, we have Xabi Alonso coming in at Chelsea.
That
They
I
swoop
think that's the
in.
biggest one. Yeah.
I think that one's the biggest one, probably, of course, outside of Pep leaving. We'll see what he can do there at Chelsea. And it's kind of interesting too because you see some of the movements they've made in the market, bringing in Morgan Rogers. I think that's a great signing for them. You get a big
Mhm.
physical midfielder who has great attacking instincts that can really just instantly just pull so much gravity to on a defense. So I think that's a great signing. I know that apparently they're looking at maybe some more experienced players like Danny Welbeck, Jordan Henderson. I think that's an awesome idea, really, for with like how the past 3, 4 years have gone with their locker rooms. You want to have experience. You want to have players in there that set the tone and set the standard. And so Xabi Alonso knows that he had his experience in Real at Real Madrid, where things due to a locker room setup did not go well for him. So I think he's probably learned from that lesson, and he's saying, "Hey, let's get some people in here that actually will listen, will build good identity, good instincts into the team." And I personally think Chelsea will still need to figure out a lot this season, and it's going to be a big stretch, I think, for them to probably be competing for the actual title. But I don't think it's far out of the realm of possibility. Just depends. I mean, one of the biggest things I think Xabi Alonso day one needs to step in there and say, anybody gets a red card, they're fined £100,000, like right
Yeah.
away. Can't be
Yeah.
tolerated. None of all that bullshit has to stop. But any thoughts about Alonso to Chelsea, Luke?
Yeah, I think he's dangerous. I think he's going to be a really good fit. You know, we can see in the way Chelsea are moving, right? They're spending a lot of money this summer, right? 117 million pounds on Morgan Rogers is a lot of money. And then, you're factoring in Danny Welbeck and can potentially not Dean Henderson, Jordan Henderson. Sorry,
Jordan
I don't know
Henderson.
what I'm doing there, but potentially those two coming in could be a really good signing. And I think that is a testament to Jabi Alonso having some control and some sway over the transfers they're making. Because previously we would have seen them signing 2 or 3 17-year-olds on 10-year contracts. So
Mhm.
that's not happening, which I think neither one of us are the biggest Chelsea fans, but the thing about it is for FPL, they could be really great for us to have in our teams. So I think there's a route where we might see some success with going 3 Chelsea attackers. I really would not be opposed to it if someone wanted to do it. Obviously, that would be Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, and João Pedro. João Pedro is significantly underpriced. That's that is one big mistake FPL Towers made. I don't. To me, it makes and excuse me, no fucking sense for Ollie Watkins to be more expensive than João Pedro. That it blows my mind because
It's a
Ollie
massive.
Watkins, decent player, but João Pedro has the upside of being in a much better team where he can be very explosive. Like we saw today, they had a friendly. He scored 3 goals and got 1 assist in 25 minutes of playing.
Yep.
It's just like at £7.5 million, he's going to be in every person's team. And that's one of those where I would encourage you to have him. I don't care what the ownership is. His upside is so high with him being that cheap.
You're
So
exceedingly.
I think Chelsea are a great pickup for the season. I would um, definitely recommend everyone going after them. So, and like Paul was saying, like Jabi Alonso will be a good fit, but we also see Ariola taking over at Liverpool, Michael Carrick officially signing a contract with United, De Zerbi with Spurs. A very limited sample size there, but I think Spurs will be much better this season. And it's something that we can definitely keep in our minds. I think there are some good picks there for them. Marco Rosa comes over from the Bundesliga to take over Bournemouth. Glassner
Notorious
makes the shift
Dortmund
over.
flame out there, Marco Rosa.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm very intrigued by this,
I'm not.
but I don't know. We'll see. I think losing Areola is going to really hurt anybody. So I think Bournemouth could struggle a little bit this season. And then really kind of on to the, three teams that I'm kind of worried about. Fulham, not feeling good about Fulham this season. I think that they could seriously be in a relegation battle. I would not be surprised. Um, Arbeloa, I don't know if I'm saying that right. He, I'm concerned about that. I think he struggled at Real Madrid, and Fulham's going to be difficult for him with them losing a lot of their key players. So I worry about that. And then Sage at Palace, don't know too much about him. And then Gary O'Neill is going to be taking over at Ipswich. So there's a lot of change, and there's some teams I'm really worried about for this season that shouldn't be struggling the way they are. So we'll just see what happens. But with all of this change, that means in FPL, there's a lot of uncertainty with what we're thinking going forward. Paul, any final overarching thoughts on this for
Yeah,
the
yeah. I
managers?
think just your point there, Luke, that within uncertainty of, you know, having a new manager come in, even if you're looking at City, like I know we're talking about Foden a little bit, but even that's risky because until we have, 3, 4 weeks of data, maybe Foden is Maresca's preferred 10 to start. And then he gets 3 weeks in and he's like, oh, wait, what about this French dude that's on my bench that actually has.
Antoine Griezmann, my good friend.
Oh, Luke.
Cheers, Antoine.
But with that, you're going to see a lot of fluctuations at Chelsea too. I mean, we know how deep the roster goes at Chelsea, and especially at Liverpool too. I mean, Liverpool does have a ton of attacking options as well. So I mean, all these managers are going to have to figure out what really works for them. And for some managers, like we know how Pep was. Usually, he found his preferred lineup around Christmas or sometime after that. Like it just takes time. So I would really recommend going with players that you feel confident that are going to get those X minutes. That's the big
Yeah.
thing we're worried about.
I feel like, what we can go to the next slide, Paul, because I think this kind of ties into what you're saying very well. That here's the thing, right? The way that FPL towers have priced the game this season, we see Haaland is very expensive at 15.5. Bruno Fernandes, very expensive at 12. Gabriel for a defender, crazy expensive at 8 million. But here's the thing, they made it really easy across the board after that, right? They
Mhm.
they cut the price for Foden. They lowered the price for, I mean, Illiman and Jai at 6 million. If he stays at Everton, that's such good value with him. So
Yeah.
and we saw that across the board, right? A lot of midfielders were decreased in price when we would expect them to be higher priced, along with forwards as well, right? Like Calvert-Lewin at 6 million seems really cheap after the season he had last year. And Leeds have only gotten stronger with some of their signings. So
Yeah.
um, I think they've messed up a little bit here
Yeah.
because there's, but I go back and forth, right? Because they have lowered the prices pretty much across the board for midfielders and forwards, there's a lot more variability in our decision making, right? Like we have a lot more players to switch in and switch out who
Yeah.
could all be very good. But I think that will make it easy for people to coalesce into a template at some point, right? Once we find those players that are returning, everyone's going to be able to get there pretty quickly. So I don't know. I worry about that a little bit. I feel like the season could get very template very fast.
Yeah.
And I never like when that happens, right? Like I feel like we always have to be making compromises. And it doesn't feel like there's too much to compromise this year, especially if you're going two out of the three premiums. Like if you're not having Gabriel or you're not having Bruno Fernandes, or for whatever reason you don't want Holland. And you know, I don't. The FPL general has fallen this year, so I think everyone will. Not
He
to
was the only
name drop,
one.
but um,
I mean, like
yeah,
Holland is currently at 75.2% ownership. With him
yeah.
being
I think
the first week against Bournemouth, he's easily going to be at what, like 140% at least in
yeah,
ownership.
they easily could have put. I think they should have upped his price another million to million and a half.
Yeah.
17 million, I'm fine with, right? Because then people have to think about, is he worth this price? And I think that's what he needs, right? Because
Yeah.
he's so good. And there's a lack of other premiums, right? We just don't have those talismanic figures at a lot of the clubs that we need. So we need those players to emerge. There's a player that I wanted to mention in the last section when we were talking about Iriola, but I think Isak is someone who is very intriguing to me. His price point is a little prohibitive, but think about who Iriola had playing as his striker last season and the last two
Yeah.
seasons.
Evan
Eden
Nilsson.
Nilsson, who works hard, presses really well. He's pretty conducive in the play, right? Holds up pretty well, but he couldn't finish a chance if you put him a foot in front of the net, right? Just, he leaves, he's inefficient in that way. Isak is the opposite of that, right? In his best form, he's creating chances and converting chances that a lot of other players don't even have an opportunity to
Yeah.
finish. So I think he's going to get a lot of chances if he's in good form and he's fit. Like if he's the Isak that terrorized people in Newcastle, I think it could be a game changer for Liverpool's season and really kind of tear up the template for what we're looking at right now in FPL.
Yeah, and look, that also segues into somebody to Verts at 7.5 million. We were
Yeah.
both super high on him to start the season last year. Never really paid off, especially for his price tag of what they paid for him. But if he finds form, if Isak finds form, and then if Liverpool, I mean, they're speculated to bring in Barcola. That could happen eventually. We could see Liverpool being in that same conversation as when you were talking about Chelsea earlier, of having three attackers or maybe two attackers and Van Dijk in the back. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out there. But yeah, I think even talking about Gabriel too, like him being priced at 8.0, to me, that's like the equivalent of what you were saying there about Haaland at 17. Like Gabriel at
Mhm.
8.0 is just so expensive, especially when you can go with which is funny because I don't think many people think about this, but Van Dijk ended up scoring, I think it was three more goals than Gabriel last season in the Premier League.
Hmm.
And like little things like that, where I mean, yes, Liverpool's defense struggled, but Arsenal's defense this season are going to start the season without Saliba. So do they give up more
Yep.
goals? Are they going to be
Mhm.
leaky in the back? And if so, if Gabriel, we know that he can go on those runs, but even at 8.0, I mean, that's so much to ask whenever you could just get probably Mascara, Calafiori, or even I'd probably stick with either of those two. But if Ben White starts starting and he's on that right side, if Timber can't play, if Ben White's overlapping with Saka again, like he also becomes a great FPL asset again. Like
But are we gonna see Saka starting? Like that's why I have so many questions, right, with Gabriel because A, Saliba's gone. B, Saka, Rice, maybe even Odegaard, like all these players that played at the World Cup and played for extended time, and they already looked leggy before the season even ended.
yeah,
I think they're going to prioritize resting them, right? And making sure that they're fit and ready to go come, after the first international break. So I really like ideally, I think I'm just going to swerve Arsenal to start out the season because to me, it just feels like a trap, right? Because I think that they will struggle a little bit to start out the season. This is not me saying I think they're not going to win the Premier League or be competitive or be one of the best teams in the league. They will be, but I think they're going to prioritize getting healthy, right? And making sure that their players are going to be there for that stretch from January onwards, right? And be firing at that point and really make a push. So I
yeah,
think potentially maybe even the goal rate. I think Premier League is going to always be the priority, but I think they want to win the Champions League again. They want to win the Champions League. That's going to be what keeps them up at night and running the extra lap, going, pushing a little harder. That's going to be what the motivation is, I think. So
yeah.
we'll just see how it goes, but I think I might try to avoid Arsenal for a little bit. We'll just
And
kind of
look,
see.
well,
So
the thing is here is we're gonna have to see too what happens in the rest of the transfer window with Arsenal and also with the rest of the Premier League teams, because it
yeah.
wouldn't surprise me at some point if Chelsea swoop in and make a massive bid on a caliber A star, or Liverpool. Like I said, there's talks of Barcola. Arsenal, there's talks of other players out there, and you know that the budget has to be higher for what they can do in the transfer market after how last season went. So it's like
Uh,
where can they really make an impact? And keep an eye on all these other teams too. Like Fulham probably needs to strengthen the squad. There's also other teams too that can really make advances in the market as well. But yeah, that's
yeah.
something to be aware of before the summer window closes. But let's go ahead
Yes.
and look
Yes.
here at our next slide. So here we're kind of looking at price points as well. And with
Hmm.
this one too, as we can see, we talked about Haaland earlier. Bruno also goes up to 12 million, up 3 million. Gabriel, that one really still just pissing me off. And then Thiago at 8 million. We look what stands out to you most about the risers besides Haaland? So I know we already just discussed him.
I think Bruno Fernandes rose accordingly. He could have been 13 million in my mind. Make it a little harder for people. I would have been fine with that, especially knowing that they lowered, like, made it more affordable to get to other midfield and forward options.
Mhm.
There's a plethora of players for us to choose from. So, I think other risers that potentially made sense across the board. I think defenders seeing price rise. I get that. Like Senesi got a price rise very deservedly because he was so incredible on DEF CON. But now we're in a situation where is he going to start for Spurs? I don't know. I feel like if out of the Spurs defenders, I'd be more likely to go Van Heck because he's zero point 0.5 cheaper at 5 million over Senesi, who's at 5.5. Um, and there's also some really good fullback options. I think we see some defenders that drop to 4.5. I love Mitchell at 4.5. I think Kadioglu, he's a great pick at Brighton at 4.5. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but they're good picks across the board. I think Gabriel's price rise maybe even could have been a little bit more, but they didn't want to prohibit people going there. So I understand 8 million. I think that's a pretty fair price. So
Yeah.
I think with the most notable risers, they got it right. With the other midfield and forward options, I think they got it wrong. I think a lot of the players in there could have been given an extra million or so, right? Like
Yeah.
DCL at 7 million, I think is good, right? You're considering it if you want him. Is he worth the price? You're really doing that, value proposition in your mind. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it was. Are there any other risers that stood out to you, Paul?
Not too much. I mean, I know we kind of have a shorter list here, but let me see. I have them pulled up here. I mean, realistically, to me, I mean, I think those are probably the biggest ones to highlight. I know, yeah, that's basically all that I would sum up there. I mean, the fallers too. Isak just makes sense. I mean, he had a massively disappointing season. Gyökeres, that one, I'm like, maybe 7.5 if he ends up being the starter for Arsenal. At 7.5 in a team that probably should score a lot of goals. Really, if he starts, getting 2 goals, an assist, whatever, all over the time, then it could be a good fit eventually. Like he wouldn't be bad at
Mhm.
7.5. Let's say that you start with João Pedro, he does really bad. Gyökeres has 3 or 4 good games at the start. That could be a good move over from João
Yeah,
Pedro if he doesn't do well.
it's kind of hard to figure those two out. I think I'm going to be very careful about Gyökeres and Havertz because
Yeah.
I just don't know, right? Like, what is this
Who
Arsenal team going to
who
look
are you
like?
saying, Luke?
Oh, Kai Havertz? Who's that? I've never heard of him before. Never heard you talk about him.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But I agree. Keep going though.
um, I can't lie, Luke. I'm still gonna just be a certified, not even hater of Cole Palmer, but like until he shows that he can consistently score goals in the Premier League. Because last season he had one of the all-time droughts of not scoring like an open play goal. I'm not gonna believe in him. Like I'm just not as an FPL asset, and I think it's crazy I think he's probably in your team from what I saw that we put together. I don't buy it at all. It's a new system. It's a new manager. I know he played really good for was it the end of Pochettino whenever he first went to Chelsea? But since
Hmm.
then, I haven't been sold on him in a Chelsea kit. And like, I really like all these people that were arguing that he should have been at the World Cup. Like, you can make the argument that there's some certain things that he could probably do that they didn't have in that squad. But his play last season at club level did not sell him on going to the World Cup. Like, I don't get the argument because he was not good. Like, he just wasn't. Like,
Okay. I hear you. I hear you. It makes sense. Let me push back a little bit, right? Make a counter
go ahead.
argument. And I think this is great, right? I love when we can kind of talk about it this way. So think about last season, right? Cole Palmer had issues back to back to back, right? Injury issues where I think it was his groin. You know, it was like multiple times Maresca was like, okay, well, he's going to be playing and he's going to take the international break and he's going to be ready. Maybe we didn't see him for 3 weeks, right? After that, right? And then it kept flaring up. It was one of those things where you could just see he looked uncomfortable while he was playing. So I think he's going to greatly benefit from not going to the World Cup and having a full summer break, getting an idea of like getting his body back in good conditioning. And this system is going to fit him so much better, right? Javi Alonso thrives on having 2 10s play. And he's going to be playing with Morgan Rogers as well, right? Cole Palmer is going to be in that inner right channel, ready to cut into the left foot, and Morgan Rogers is going to be in the left channel, right, ready to cut it on his right foot. So I think we'll see that chemistry between the two of them, and I think that with João Pedro, they're going to have a very dynamic striker where all three of them will play together really well.
Yep.
I think I would like to see Chelsea sign some better fullbacks. And I think, you know, the team gets better if they ship off Enzo Fernandez as well, too. But that's just a personal bias on my end. So I think Cole Palmer is someone who could be very interesting. But the tough thing about him, if you start the season without him, it's very prohibitive to get to him if you don't have him, right? Because either then you're probably selling Bruno Fernandez or Haaland to get the money to get him into your team. I think it's a lot easier from a price point perspective to start higher and work your way down as opposed to the opposite, right? Because let's say Palmer goes out there. Who did they start the season with? Let me see. Let me pull this up.
I have it regularly.
So what? So Chelsea start out with
It's Fulham away, Brighton at home, and then Arsenal away and Hull at home,
yeah,
and then Brentford away. So I mean, they have like I mean their first
they
five.
have a good run. Yeah.
I mean
So
that's
I
a
mean,
better run than Arsenal have the whole season. Like
yeah. Let's say we see Cole Palmer gets 1 goal, right, in that first match away at Craven Cottage against Fulham. And people are going to be bringing him in like crazy. If he goes up to 9.8 within, you know, that first going into game week 2, a lot of people aren't going to be able to get there, right? And they're going to be tearing up their teams just to get him. So I think it's one of those where I believe in Javi Alonso. We know Cole Palmer has the talent. He just has to be put in the right positions and be healthy. And I think all 4 of those things I just said are very capable of happening, right? Like he's had the break, he's got a new manager, and I think he, you know, will be coming out with a vengeance after not going to the World Cup and having a disappointing season. So I'm on the Cole Palmer train. I think he's going to be a good pickup for FPL this season. And if anything else, I give him 2 weeks and I can go elsewhere after that.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, like that. The biggest selling point there to me is that if you get Cole Palmer at 9.5, you can easily move elsewhere afterwards.
Mhm.
To me, though, if I have to figure out to get a way to get him in after the first 5 game weeks of the season, I'll do so. But I will not be moving in that direction early in the season. I
Yeah,
feel like there's
that's fair.
too many independent variables, you know. But with that too, we also have Soccer who dropped in price. He's down at 9.5. That's probably right with how his current fitness level is. and just kind of how probably the end of last season played out. So still overall though, seeing Saka below 9.5 if he finds
Paul,
form.
question for you. If Arsenal were to get Vinicius, and I know there were some reports saying that it probably won't happen
Give
today.
me a minute.
Some reports it's not going to happen. If he were to come to the Arsenal, what do you think his price point would be? And not no, but like your best
No
guess. What
bias
do you
here.
think it would
Let
be?
me see. So Bruno's the top price midfielder at 12.0. Semenyo's next at 8.5. I would think he'd probably fall either equivalent with Bruno or higher based on his standing just kind of in world football and like his ceiling. Like if he goes to Arsenal and he plays the way he has in his best moments at Real, he instantly probably becomes the best winger in the Premier League, right? For the team that won the Premier League last season that already has a great setup. And he is literally, I'm not going to go on too long about this, but he is literally probably the exact fit that Arsenal need to add more dynamism and also creativity to their attack. Where, I mean, I think you could see a situation if he goes there, he settles in quickly. There's not the mentality kind of stuff going on that probably is the biggest concern. If he settles in, I mean, he could probably, I mean, he could even break Salah's record for most FPL points in a season. Like I could easily see that being a case because he's that level of a player, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, with him, it's really good because the goals are there, but the assists are also there too,
Yeah.
right? So the pathway to points is very diverse. And I think he'd settle into the Arsenal team pretty nicely, right? I think, like you're saying, the question is like, is he going to track back? Is he going to do what he needs to do defensively? Because we know that's a priority for Arteta, so he would have to be doing that.
Yeah.
So, we'll see, right, if that happens. But it's good to hear your feedback there. One player we do need to mention that we both have in our draft, so we'll talk about him a little bit more is Szoboszlai with Liverpool. We're thinking he's going to be the figurehead for this Liverpool attack, along with Isak as well. He's been really good for them. He's on set pieces. He takes free kicks. So something to keep an eye on, right? But he's also very highly owned. So in the back of my mind, like, do I want to go there with him? I do want a piece of Liverpool's fixtures, because they have a really good run going forward. Which I can pull up here in a second. Liverpool start out the season. They have Newcastle away, which looks like an incredible fixture. Newcastle, who knows who's going to be playing for them? They have Forest at home. And then we go with Ipswich away, Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, and then Man City at home. So those are all really good fixtures in there. And Szoboszlai is someone who kind of just ticks over the points, someone who's reliable, good player to have in your team. And we know that the shots that Salah was getting need to be redistributed somehow. And it feels like Szoboszlai might be the one that steps up into that position, and really kind of assumes control of that position. So I think, that this is going to be good. But I always get a little hesitant on the players that have high ownership. So
Yeah.
just want to be mindful of that when making that selection. But any thoughts on Szoboszlai? And we can probably go to the next slide, Paul, where we kind of talk about our starting 11s, because I think good segue for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a great pick. He had an awesome season at Liverpool last year. But with that, Luke, let's go ahead and roll out your team for everybody. This is then just so everybody's aware. Today is what is it, July 28th. With that, these are our very, very early teams. We just want to timestamp and date those. There's like Luke said earlier, there's
Yeah.
going to be a ton of things that change going forward. These are kind of really just our initial thoughts, initial tinkerings with our teams. But Luke, go ahead and walk everybody through the team. What you
All
thinking?
right. So we're going with the double premium setup here is really kind of the look that we're going for. Um, this could easily change, right? Because Cole Palmer is someone I want to get into this team, but I couldn't get the money to work
Don't
quite
do it.
right for that. See about that. But so with that caveat, I've built this team to where it's pretty cheap at the back, right? My highest priced defenders are Maguire and Van Hag, both at 5 million. And then going across the board with two 4.5s in Mitchell and Kadioglu. And then I've got Leaf Davis with Ipswich as of my 4 million. Two goalkeepers, I'm just going with one 4.5 and then 4 million. And I'd be playing one goalkeeper every week, right? From Brighton, which would be for Bruggen. In the midfield, I've decided to go with Szoboszlai, Phil Foden. As we can see here, thanks for getting the kit for me, Paul. I get to torture you with wearing it all the
I don't honestly. I don't know
time.
why I bought that shit for you.
I don't know. Your decision. But Bruno Fernandez next, logical pick. Everyone's going to have him, I think, this season. Pascal Gross, who kind of just takes over the points, hitting DEFCON, assist as well, maybe a couple goals here and there. And then Morgan Rogers with Chelsea. So ideally, that Morgan Rogers spot would be Cole Palmer, but I need to figure out a way to add an extra 2 million into the team to get up to Cole Palmer. So
Mhm.
across the forward line, though, we have Solanke at 6 million, which I think could be really good value if he stays fit. We'll see what happens. But then we have Haaland, of course, and wrap up the team with João Pedro, who's
Yeah.
on the bench. Nothing intentional there, just kind of how it was laid out when I sent it over. But I really like the way this team's set up. I think it's positioned to be able to make moves across the board, right?
Mhm.
Um, if Cole Palmer was there, I think that would allow me to get to the point of where I could easily move the team around at
Yeah.
one or two transfers easily. So I like it. I'm happy with it. Other players I'd be considering, I think Isak is someone that I'd like to get, but I think other players are better value at this point.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I'll always wonder, like, do I want Arsenal defenders as well? But as you can see from this initial draft, I might be going in a different direction with that. So
Yeah.
that's my draft for now. I think it will continue to chop and change over time, but I like being able to rotate across my attackers and then having some, defenders that I can rotate based upon the fixtures as well. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's it for now. Let's go into your team, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So here, looking at my team, we can see that somewhat honestly, kind of the same setup as Luke's, and Bruno Fernandez, Holland, Ja Pedro, Szoboszlai, Foden, Gross. A lot of the same, I think, thought process going into why we're both choosing all those players. I have Rice in there because I really feel like he'll probably be included in that first day against Coventry at home. Just how Rice is as a player, I feel like he'll probably for sure be starting playing. Just assuming that. But looking at the other forward, Obi, that's literally just you know 4.5 forward to fill a spot so I can allocate more money elsewhere. I'm going a little bigger in the back than Luke is, allocating more budget there just because I want part of that Chelsea defense. I want part of Nottingham Force's defense with Aina. You could go Nico Williams as well, too. Luke may have thoughts. So we can ask him here after I'm done with this little rundown of kind of what he thinks about that. Calafiori, everybody, if you listen to this podcast, I'm a big fan. I think that honestly, in his best day, he's probably the best left back in the Premier League. With honestly, from an FPL perspective of scoring goals, getting assists, he will show up in the 9 position at any given time in an Arsenal match. He scores bangers from outside the box. I think he's just a great FPL asset. Guardiola, too, could see maybe it depends on kind of where he's playing in that City setup. We know he has the flexibility of playing a left center back, a left back. He could honestly even pivot into being a midfielder eventually with kind of how he is on the ball. So we'll see how Maresca uses him. And then just kind of another filler defender there. I have Lemons and back and goal, kind of one part of the United defense. Luke got
My
screwed over
guy.
by Emerald last year.
Oh, yeah, he turned me into a rage monster multiple
Yeah,
times.
yeah. Like, which that's I think the telling of this podcast, Luke, is we're going to discuss expectations and how not not letting FPL ruin a weekend that you're probably on vacation with your wife and you all are
I
having a
can
good
tell
time.
you, my wife would appreciate that.
And she did not tell me to say that. That's me independently saying that.
Yep, you we'll leave it at that.
You don't have the words. The rage is already starting to course through your veins with us talking FPL.
Hey, FPL is back, baby.
God. But yeah, overall, just kind of looking at my team, like we said, this is very early on. Um, and I'm sure there's going to be alterations, differences that, compared to the actual game week 1 team. We just wanted to give you all a good idea of kind of initially what we're thinking, and just give a little insight into, early on where we're kind of leaning with some of our selections. But yeah, let's see here. So that's probably going to be about it for us, Luke.
Well, if you want to go back to your team, I've got a couple questions for you
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
want to go through that. So question to you let's start with Aina, right, with
Mhm.
Nottingham Forest. Explain your thought process for the listeners on why you picked him.
Yeah, this is kind of tying back to our manager tab earlier. I really like Glassner as a manager, and I think he's probably going to solidify a ton of what's been going on there over the past couple of years. In saying that, I don't know why any manager would go to a club that had probably 5 or 6 managers in one season, and that they fire people just like absolutely like that. But I think he could be the solution. They have a team that's pretty well set up for his system. We know how Munoz played in that right wingback position, and also both of his wingbacks, how they play. And Aina is somebody that, does have a little more attacking prowess. Nico Williams, I don't know if Nico Williams has the end product that Aina does. If you look at the stats, they're probably both similar. I would argue that Aina has a little more of that, and it's probably who Glassner will use on that right wing. But I mean, this is a team that like what finished 2 seasons ago in the top 6, 8 of the Premier League, whatever it was, and has the ability. I mean, they have Morgan Rogers. They have no, I'm not Morgan Rogers. Who am I
Gibbs
thinking?
White.
Morgan Gibbs White, who is an extremely creative player. I really like Igor Jesus too. I think he could be a really good
He's
pick there.
scored three goals in their 3 friendlies so far.
I mean, this is a lot of this. What I'm saying here is kind of just due to how Glasner likes to play. But I mean, if you think about the amount of chances that Mateta missed over the past 2 seasons under Glasner, like his nines do get a lot of chances. And if you have somebody there that can finish them, which Jesus has shown that he can be clinical at moments, if he gets a lot of chances, we'll see how he really performs over a large quantity. But could be a really good option. And force could be a problem for a lot of people with just how difficult it is to get at a Glassner side.
Yep, I agree. And I think it's one of those where we need to keep an eye on how the friendlies continue to evolve over time, because we know he's going to have those fullbacks that are bombing up and down the wings, right? That is entirely what his system is built upon. They're the keystone to how his teams play. And I think from what I've seen so far, it feels like Nico Williams might be the one who pushes a little higher up from their tactical approach. So historically, Aina has been better, but he really wasn't that great last season. So to me, it feels like Nico Williams might be the one that I would look at if I was going to go there. But I love the idea of picking a Nottingham Forest fullback. I think that's going to be a
So
good fit. And like we talked about earlier, with the change to the underlying BPS system, fullbacks are going to be rewarded more. And I think we'll see a little more DEFCON heading their direction. But I think we'll see a little bit of a reversion of going back to fullbacks this season instead of
yeah.
just the big bulking center backs that hit DEFCON, 90% of the time, 70% of the time.
So Luke, I'm just sharing my screen to this tab real quick. If you want to look, we can see this is the starting lineup that Nottingham Forest started in their friendly. I think it was a couple days ago against Blackburn. You can see that or Jesus, Gibbs White both playing up front. That's interesting for Gibbs White, but also you can see Aina right wing back. And also here, Yates, who is, I think, a 4.5 midfielder. Like if that's somebody that's consistently starting, if he hits DEFCON, if he kind of slides a little bit into, the Elliot Anderson position, I mean, at 4.5, talk
Yeah.
about price enabler.
I've seen a lot of Forest fans talking about this. And if Yates does continue to play, I think he's someone we should really consider, right? Because he could be that Elliot Anderson pick. It seems like what a lot of their fans think is that they're going to make a signing, right? They're going to bring someone in to play that Elliot Anderson role.
Yeah.
But if they don't make that signing, Yates is a great pick, right? Because if we have that 4.5 enabler in the midfield that could come on and get you 4 points whenever you need him to come in for whichever week it is, that allows you to do so much more, right?
Yep.
That's a move that could allow us to have, let's say, Gabriel, Bruno Fernandez, Isak, and maybe Palmer, like
Yep.
with Haaland, right? Of course, but that enables a lot. That 4.5 does.
Yep.
So just something to think about. And I kind of like the way that he has high upside there. So I think Gibbs White is being a little underappreciated right now as well. I still haven't gotten to the point of putting him into my drafts yet, though, because I think I'm still hesitant on how it's going to play out. For that move that I'm drawing a blank on his mind that Glasner made to Nottingham Forest. So
Yeah.
we'll just see how it goes. One more player I wanted to mention before we sign off.
Yeah.
I think Ismail Sarr could be a great pick
Yeah.
at Palace.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, though, what we need to see is we need to see Mateta go somewhere else. Which
Valid.
I thought that was going to happen, right? They signed Strand Larson. My mind is moving very slow right now, so apologies, everyone. But if Mateta goes somewhere else, I think Sarr could step into that talismanic figure for
Yeah.
Palace and really kind of guide them through this turbulent time because he was really good last season. It was just a lot of his goals were in Europe or
He,
in the FA Cup, whatever it was, right?
he
So
scored some massive goals for Crystal Palace last season. Like there's
he
no
did.
doubt about
He
it.
did. So I think we'll see what happens, but Sarr is someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I agree with you there,
But
Luke.
I think that's going to do it for us for the day. Paul, any final thoughts for our listeners out there?
No, I'm excited to kind of jump into another FPL season. We'll have to see. I think we're gonna start a fund for Luke to have a therapist that's purely for FPL. So if you want to donate, if you want to contribute to that, everybody here would
Yes.
really appreciate it.
Yep.
But
My GoFundMe is active right now. So
But with that, really excited for another FPL season. It's very early, so just do whatever's fun, whatever's comfortable at this time. If you don't want to mess with early drafts, don't do it. Maybe just look at price points, get a good idea of who transferred where, what manager went to this club, that kind of thing. Because I know with the World Cup, it's really easy to get kind of detached from the Premier League. You come back and you're like, wow, when did Maresca go to City? That kind of thing. But
yeah.
we'll be here to guide you all through it. And if you're still here, any questions you have about early price points, teams you want to send to us, feel free over any medium to pass those along. And if you're still here, give us a like, subscribe, all those things. Really, really helps us out long term.
Yes. Everyone, listen to Paul. Do what he says. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you guys. We're very, very excited for this FPL season to be getting started. And we cannot wait for August 21st when the Premier League season kicks off. So, as much as my wife might not be excited, I'm excited. So, yeah. But on that note, thank you guys for joining us for this first edition of Top Pins with Twins going in the 26-27 season. It's going to be a crazy season. I can't wait to see where we end up. I think Paul and I are going to put together an episode in the near future where we talk about our predictions for the season and give you all an idea of what we expect to see happen. And that's never easy to do. So be sure to tune in for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was fun to be talking FPL again with you, Luke, but we will be back soon, everybody. And we hope you all have a great rest of your week. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you all soon.
Bye.